Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. We have our first basketball-centered podcast today, Tyson. We got a ton to discuss. We're discussing both the NBA and college basketball from a betting side, though, a betting angle, as we sort of dive into these markets and see if there's any value on these future odds. You know, who's going to win the East, who's going to win the West, who you want to get down for the NBA Finals. And March Madness is about a month away. Like,
We're close.
the market is sharp right now on a day-to-day. Like, I've had a couple losing days in a row, and I think I'm about to have 3 in a row, which hasn't happened all season, which is crazy. And now it's getting super sharp. But let's look at the future market and decide who we think is going to cut down the nets at the end as we kind of walk everything through. But, Tyson, we've been heavily football-centered this football season. Now it's like we're coming out of our rabbit hole, and now it's like, oh, God, hardwood. We got to start analyzing that too.
And that's why we're starting here, I think, is we're slowly coming to the realization that it's time to get the basketball content out there because we've been all the way into the NFL. I was going to say something probably a little bit more vulgar, but I'll refrain.
All right, so let's jump right in. And so if you're watching on YouTube, we have visuals. So if you're listening on podcast form, check us out on our YouTube channel as we got a bunch of different things going on right now. We're gonna start with the NBA Finals, and so it's actually an interesting market here, Tyson. I'm not sure if you dove into it pre-flop at all before the season, but it's an interesting market as it is now. So the favorite right now, the Boston Celtics plus 380, Bucks second favorite at plus 600, and you got the Nuggets who are first in the West right now plus 700, and you go down Nets plus 750, Warriors to repeat plus 850, the Grizzlies plus 1,000, Sixers plus 1,200. Very interesting market as I kind of look at this from the top. Like very short odds on the Celtics. Just what do you think when you're looking at that board?
Well, it's interesting because as you run through, obviously in the NBA, you're basically looking for superstars in these things. Superstars win championships in the NBA. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it's going to continue to be. All these teams have one, right? So that's when you look at the top half, you're not going to find anything unique there. To me, though, Brad, like the Bucks have proven it and done it, and obviously we all know about the Warriors. Everybody else on there has a pretty rough last maybe 5-10 years when it comes to winning in the playoffs. We loved the Celtics last year, and they weren't able to get it done against Golden State. How many times do you talk yourselves into the Nuggets, right, over the course of time? And you know more than anybody else. No matter how good the Sixers look in the regular season, it doesn't seem to mean a damn thing when the ball tips in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, because I want to start believing in the Sixers again because this offense has started to look a lot better. It seems like that front office is going to be aggressive and maybe move on from Thibault, maybe go get some more veteran presence. I think the addition of PJ Tucker this offseason, you've seen how it transformed this team. It's a little bit tougher. James Harden, I think, getting slided in the All-Star game, I think that's great if you're a Sixers fan. Some extra motivation there. The question's always going to come down to Joel Embiid and his health. He's ran out of gas the past 2 postseasons, just flat out ran out of gas because he's had to do so much during the regular season. So that's what concerns me when I'm looking at that plus 1,200. Now, I will say I am a Sixers fan, so I'm already holding a Sixers championship ticket from the start of the season. Also holding a Nuggets, a Clippers, because I just can't quit them for whatever reason, and a Bucks ticket. So I have the Bucks, Nuggets, Sixers, and Clippers in hand. I don't know if you got anything pre-flop. I know you're a Suns fan. Now plus 1,800 seems like they're going to get some reinforcements.
You're lighting money on fire, man.
Oh,
they're not going to win. They're not going to win the NBA Finals. I mean, it is what it is with this team. When Devin Booker plays, they're a good team, like in a top of the Western Conference team in the regular season. Devin Booker's one of the best players in the world. DeAndre Ayton doesn't give a shit anymore. Cam Johnson missed a ton of time. Mikal Bridges we're still waiting. He's had a lot of really good moments. He's had some moments so far this year where you're kind of scratching your head and you're just like, I thought we were through with this. Jay Crowder's not playing. Chris Paul looks like he fell off the edge of the cliff, which is a total bummer for us here. But I think pretty much everyone else is delighted because for some reason people love to hate that dude.
Yeah.
As far as pre-flop, though, the only one I loved off the board to start the year was the Clippers, and I didn't take it because I thought they would slip a little bit. But watching them now, I don't know if I want back in all that badly at this particular point. At plus 1,500, it'll shorten probably if they get better and play better going into the playoffs. But I'd rather have some evidence of them putting together a solid 3-week stretch against good teams than basically what I've seen to this point.
Yeah, so the what I've heard from the Clippers and what they're chasing after right now is a guard. Like, they need a true guard. Now, Reggie Jackson, he had that fun story a couple years ago, but in reality, I think the Clippers do need an upgrade. So Kawhi Leonard and Paul George don't have to be the primary ball handlers. Now, how aggressive are they going to be? Well, there are rumors that they're going to go after Fred VanVleet. And if they get Fred VanVleet, that completely changes the team. I think if you are a believer in the Clippers and you buy the rumors that they're actually going to be aggressive at the deadline and get a need that they've had for a long time at the point guard position, I would buy them now. That's my recommendation, because I think even if they don't get VanVleet and they get a Mike Conley, I think that completely changes the roster and the outlook for how the LA Clippers can go into the playoffs.
That's why you got to be checking your phones. You got to be quick to the notifications and all that, because you got to get to the board before everybody else.
So here's what I think people are going to look at, right? The Grizzlies, hot name with Ja Morant, and it's a fun team. They try their ass off. They got swagger, plus 1,000. I think many people might look at that and be interested. I don't think they're built to win the West this year. I think the Nuggets are much better. Apparently they're going to try to move and make some upgrades as well, just because, they're leading the West right now by 3 games. But we know the Nuggets have great home court advantage. I don't think the Grizzlies match up well with them. In a series, I definitely don't think they match up well with the Clippers. And if you kind of go down the rest of the board, we know the Warriors, that's kind of their big brother. And the Warriors have been coasting through the regular season. I would not buy the Grizzlies right now. I can't see them getting out of the West.
This might be a little bit of an off-base take here, and you can let me know, but Memphis is a really good team. Memphis is too emotional to win an NBA Finals. I like the highs and lows and things in the playoff, and we saw it last year, blowing a Golden State team out by 50. Everybody's acting like you just won the series, and then you go on to basically get dubbed up for the entire rest of it and thrown off the court. Is essentially what happened to them after that moment, and they're lining walls with trash talk, and they're talking shit, and they're in everybody's face, and we're all over you all the time, and it's awesome. Those teams don't win NBA championships. They just don't. And you can run back through time. There's a reason a lot of these teams, we like to see them pay their dues year over year first to kind of break through. And then once that ceiling is lifted, that's when we get these NBA dynasties. And I know it doesn't always happen, and it seems we're living in a weird time where it's LeBron or the Warriors essentially for the last, and it's been Giannis and the Celtics got through, but it's like 2 teams. But that's kind of the NBA when you run back through things, and that's how it works. And those guys have to pay their dues. And Memphis making it to the conference finals a year ago, all that stuff is awesome. They're still too emotional to go toe-to-toe with some of these really experienced veteran-laden teams for over 7 games.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's not, okay, you come in on a back-to-back, okay, the Grizz are going to run you out of the gym. It's you have to win 4 out of 7. And like you said, the highs and lows just can't happen in the playoffs. And you can say, well, the Warriors are emotional. Sure, they're emotional in the right spots, though. Like, they rise to the moment, they rise to the occasion, and they answer the call way more often than not. And we just haven't seen that with the Grizzlies yet. Now, they're an extremely young team, so there's somebody you want to keep an eye on in the future. Right now, they're not a buy for me. I'll tell you something here's my dark horse. Cleveland Cavaliers sitting at plus 2,100 right now. This team is good. And last year they didn't have enough to get them over the hump in the East. They went out and got Donovan Mitchell. He's been a revelation for them. They spread the floor extremely well. Evan Mobley's playing fantastic in his second season. And you have Jarrett Allen, who I think is going to be a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year award this season. The rumor is, too, Cavaliers are going to be aggressive at the deadline also. So if they can go get a legit wing to go along with Garland and Mitchell in the backcourt, get a legit wing, and then you have those front court players, that's a scary team, and they can match up with Milwaukee.
I like the Cavaliers a lot more at plus 1,100 to win the East than I like them at plus 2,100 to win the whole thing. I can see this team realistically being able to beat somebody over a 10-day stretch, playing better basketball. And Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs, we know, is a different guy. He just shows up. He's going to get a couple 50 bombs, and you're not going to win those games. He's going to win a game by himself in the playoffs. Same thing I just talked about, though, at the latter half of that Memphis thing. It's just they have to do it together, and they have to get through. It's so rare for one of these teams to do it on their first try that I like them better as a potential dark horse to win the East, especially when the lines in the East are so short as far as conference champs, because we all know it's Celtics, Bucks, Nets. Like that's the way this thing's shaking out. And then a little love to the Sixers, and then there's a massive gap to everybody else. Right. And so to me, from that next tier in the East, I certainly do like Cleveland.
Okay, Celtics are too short for me to hold right now at plus 380. I think the East is going to be a war this season. I would recommend – now let's do this too, Tyson. I'll give a recommendation for what people have hold. If you haven't bought in and you're like, hey, I want a little bit of juice right now, my recommendation is to buy into the Bucks at plus 600. That's where I would push you towards right now. I don't know about the Nuggets at plus 700. We know what they do in the regular season. Jokic is kind of in that time where this is where – all-time great players start winning championships. I don't know if they can do it. And I think if they get matched up against the Bucks, I like the Bucks in that matchup. There's just not enough around Jokic, I don't think. Now, Murray's starting to play a lot better. Jamal Murray is coming on the form like he did before he tore his ACL, so that could be something. But I think they do need to get upgrades at the trade deadline. Jay Crowder could be a guy that I think would be an upgrade for them, or whoever else. Just another – they could be susceptible, but I'm going to recommend Bucks. Tyson, is there anything that you want to recommend right now for anybody out there?
Funny enough, I like Denver plus 700. I mean, to me, they've been the most impressive regular season team as I'm watching them. I think it's the fact that Jokic isn't just like universally. It's like the NBA MVP ladder change. It's game over game now because we can't wait and analyze at the end of the year. But night in, night out, this dude has been the most productive player on the court. And you can count on one hand the amount of times he's been whooped. Joel Embiid did it to him the other day. Joe got him pretty good. That was fun. But to me, with Denver, they're deeper this year. As you mentioned, Murray's back. And I think it might be time. And I'd rather get in on it now than when they win the West. Because I just, like, I don't think Memphis is beating them in a 7-game series. If Golden State is going to continue to try to turn on and off the switch, and that's what they did a year ago and it worked, but eventually you're not going to be able to do that. And they're kind of playing with fire certain nights so far this season as far as the effort given. And outside of those two, like when you look through the West, it's like I like the Nuggets over all of them. So we're not giving out like spicy Luka Doncic at plus 2,700 buy into the Mavericks stuff. But this is, to me, at plus 700, I think the Nuggets are going to get shorter as the year goes on.
Okay, so value play there from Tyson. Now, you already mentioned something in the East. Well, let's dive into a little bit more here for the Eastern Conference odds. Celtics plus 180, Bucks plus 280, Nets plus 390, and you got your Sixers plus 600. Now, you said Cavaliers plus 1,100. I tend to agree with you there. I like Cleveland if you're looking for a longer shot at plus 1,100. Plus 2,100 for the finals is kind of my long shot here. Now, how about the Heat last year, who were Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals at plus 1,900? Interesting season for them. Injury-ridden. Yeah, it seems like they just aren't meshing. When you look at this board, I mean, it's clear that it's the Bucks and the Celtics according to the odds makers.
Yeah, and it should be at this point of the year. I think I like Milwaukee in a rematch of that series from a year ago, and it was fun. It was grueling. It was toe-to-toe slugfest. Boston had something really special working last playoffs, and if they can capture that again, they'll win the NBA Finals because I just don't think anybody's better. Golden State, I don't even think was better than them in the series. Or throughout the year, they just played better in the series, which is what matters, and that's what we were talking about. But the Bucks have the most capable takeover guy in the NBA. When Giannis decides, fuck you, it's 40-20. then Giannis goes and gets 40 and 20, and then you just have to hope somebody on your team can match that energy and effort. He's the bully, and that's what we talk about. It seems like every time we talk about this team. 3 years ago, it was they get bullied, they're softer, and then all of a sudden they showed up, different mentality, and they're fighting people, they're doing whatever they want. And it honestly could be getting close to time that this is one of the last times the Bucks, as constructed with this kind of core we've come to know from them, will be on the same court. Because how long is Brook Lopez going to keep this up? What's the deal with Chris Middleton as far as his contract situation going forward? What are they looking at there? Drew Holiday's obviously going to stay, but things are changing in Milwaukee, and this team gets after people. And I think that is a big difference between them now and them a year ago. They were a good defensive team. Now it's like, we want to just punch you in the face and then see where you're at.
Yeah, and so you said you like Cavaliers plus 1,100, earlier to win this. Is that like your value pick there? Like if you're saying, hey, here's my long shot, you like him?
Yes, that would be value. I think the Bucks as your quote unquote safe. There's no safe bets in the futures market, but
good point. Yeah, I'm with you on the long shot Cavaliers plus 1,100. I want to get involved with them now. I think they're going to get shorter. So if you're looking at value, I would be shocked if they went into the postseason at anything under 3 digits or anything above 3 digits. This is a really good team, and I think they're going to get a lot better. And you heard Tyson talk about the Bucks. I completely agree. Obviously, giving them out for a pick, but he likes them plus 280. Seems like we're pretty aligned here in the East. Celtics. So what's the deal? Because the Celtics, they've been good all season, and they were great in the playoffs last year. It seems like both you and I are shying away from them. What's the deal? Because Tatum's gotten better and Brown's gotten better. Why do you think we're both shying away from them?
I don't know. Honestly, it feels like this is year 5 or whatever of doing this with this Boston Celtics team, and I think maybe it's a little bit of a sour taste in our mouth from a year ago, because this was at this point in the season last year. You and I were on here saying I think that the Celtics are going to win the NBA championship, and that didn't work out. And maybe that's it. There's no real reason. They're playing phenomenal basketball. Jason Tatum now is like, who do you trust over him in the final moments? Like, you can have that conversation with anybody in the league. Who's a better 2 than Jaylen Brown? You can have that conversation with pretty much anybody else in the league. It just kind of feels like we're over it, and I don't know
why. Yeah, it's interesting. I think Joe Mazzulla, the coach there, it's not Ime Udoka, who's an amazing head coach. Joe Mazzulla, it seems like he took the reins, and now it seems like the Celtics are coming back to life a little bit. Now they've gotten a little bit banged up. How does it look down the stretch after the All-Star break? Now let's touch on the Nets before we get into the West. Now plus 390, they were like charging and storming under Jacques Vaughn. Then KD got hurt, and they've come back to earth with just Kyrie Irving and some of the ragtag group around them. It seems like they're trying to trade off some of their assets. Like they have a ton of the same player in Patty Mills, Joe Harris, Seth Curry. Like it looks like they're going to try to package some of them off and get another wing player, maybe even another big. Like I'm not quite sure. Somebody that spelled Nick Claxton, who's been awesome for him. Nets plus 390 seems short to me, but we know when you have Kyrie and KD in a 7-game series, man, it's hard to beat those two guys.
Yeah, and I think Brooklyn's kind of in need of that 9th guy for a playoff series as far as rotations go, because we've seen they're not really as presently constructed. To me, they don't feel deep enough to win an NBA championship. Maybe the best top of the roster in the NBA, one of them, certainly. It's just like, also, as I was saying with the Celtics, like it feels like we're over it. It almost feels like we've gone too far on the Kevin Durant playoff thing. It's like he hasn't won in the last couple of years, and it's like, oh, that's that. He's still been the best player in pretty much every postseason series he's been in. He was having a half-size shoe too big a few years ago from basically carrying that team by himself to where they wanted to go. And so when he's back, or as he kind of comes back to life, we'll have to watch and see where he's at going into the playoffs. But like, if there's a superstar that just says, dude, I'm winning the NBA Finals this year, I think Kevin Durant's probably the guy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. So let's talk about the Western Conference. This is interesting as we get into kind of the nitty gritty. I mean, the Nuggets are leading right now. The Grizzlies are 3 games back. You know who's number 3 right now? It's the Sacramento Kings. They've been incredible. And I got to give Mike Brown a shout out because, we, let's just put it lightly, we were not believers in the Mike Brown hire. We said it was a retread. We didn't know if it would work, yada, yada. He's done a fantastic job with the Kings there. And then you have the Clippers at the 4 spot, 7.5 back from the Nuggets, Mavs at 5, Wolves at 6. Now, Karl Anthony Towns has been injured, but it seems like this is the Nuggets to run away with during the regular season. But as we all know, it's different in the playoffs, especially with those Warriors.
I just have a really hard time seeing these. Like, this is jumbled at the top when you look at the board here. But then as you kind of analyze what's been going on in the season, look at Memphis's record against the West and then reevaluate how you think they're going to do in the playoffs. Like, to me, that's a bigger deal than it's been getting credit for, because John Morant said, we good in the West. I'm good out here. And he's been essentially anything but. Since he said that they'll win games and they beat the bad teams. They beat up on the Thunder and the Spurs, and the Timberwolves suck. We should talk about that probably, huh? What the hell?
Suck, really? I don't know. I don't know if they suck. I think they're trying to figure things out. They're disappointing for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's weird not having Towns there because it's like, when he comes back, they're going to have to reinvent themselves again. Then it's like, well, okay, so all that work you did with just Gobert, Russell, and Edwards, you add in another person there, and then it's clunky like it was to start the season. I think it's going to take some time getting used to. I think that's what people don't understand. This isn't 2K. Like, these players have to get used to playing with each other, And real quick to your point, the Grizzlies are 15-16 against the West this season so far. Yep. So that's a great point by you. I mean, look at the odds board sticking back with the Timberwolves plus 7,000 to win the West. Are you kidding?
Look at the Jazz too.
Plus 12,000.
That's so funny. But on your Kings thing, like, they've been awesome, and they're surprising. But like, when you look, they're surprising where they're sitting right now. If you would have said before the season they're at the 5 seed going into the All-Star break, I would have been like, okay, like, good for them. It worked. Yeah. But I would have assumed they're going to find their way into the play, and I don't know necessarily where I think they're going to finish at the moment. I have to sit down and think about it a little bit more. It's a really fun story. Mm-hmm. They're not going to win the West.
No.
Portland Trailblazers, Dame Lillard can beat anybody on any given night. They're not going to win the West. The Lakers are here because that's the brand. They're not going to win the West. The Mavericks don't play together. They barely play defense. They're not going to win the West. Pelicans are probably too young. I don't think they're going to win the West. The Suns are a dumpster fire. They're not going to win the West. The Grizzlies, I've explained that. I don't think they're going to win the West. The Warriors, I just don't see it. I didn't see it a year ago, so I've been wrong. But to me, that leaves me with the Nuggets and the Clippers. And that's like the only 2 that I can talk myself into. And, Brad, I'm not doing it again with you on the Clippers. I can't ride this. I can't ride the roller coaster, man.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard. I'm like, it's the 3rd calendar year, but maybe the 4th season in a row that we've done this with the Clippers now.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can
crazy,
do it,
man.
So to me, I'm with the Nuggets. That's that's my value play and who I think is going to win.
Okay, and I like how you kind of went through it like that too. Like, when you look at the odds board, I think that's very insightful from Tyson. You just like Kings. Okay, maybe there's value there, right? Plus 3,600. It's probably too short for where they're at in the 3rd, and you kind of get priced that way. But I mean, what's realistically what they should be? I mean, probably closer to what the Timberwolves are priced at now. So Tyson just did process elimination. That was great. I mean, the Blazers don't have enough. When you look at it, they're 18-15 against the conference. Away from home, they're terrible. 11-15. Not horrendous, but just not great. Not what you expect from
a team to win the West.
Team. Exactly. And then you look at the Lakers. That team stinks. Like, they're bad. They might not even make the playoffs. They're fucking plus 2,800. It's a joke.
So
that's ridiculous. I mean, so I'm gonna do it. I like this Clippers team. If they upgrade, I think you're getting a steal here. So I'm going to go crazy. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I'm going to become insane by believing this Clippers team, but that's okay. I'm already an idiot anyway. So what's another thing to add to that mantle?
If they don't win one this year, like, the window's pretty much shut, huh?
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean,
and then where do we look back on this? Because it ruled social media when it happened. It was the biggest thing. And then LeBron won year one when year two when he's in LA. When the Clippers get all these guys, and then the Clippers don't win one during this time, like that's a catastrophic failure. As you're trying to build your team, build the brand. Ballmer's in here, he's going crazy. You got a $2 billion arena, all this cool shit. Nothing, no rings.
Nothing. Nope. And real quick, I'll give my value play. It's Timberwolves plus 7,000. This is way too long. I mean, that's ridiculous. To be the Lakers are like, I mean, they're double what the Lakers price is. That's ridiculous. So here's what concerns me with the Wolves. They're good at home, 19-11. Away from home, they're bad. They're 9-15 away from home. Conference 19-17, so do have a winning record there, but it's just clunky. But not clunky enough when you have all that talent on a roster to be plus 7,000. Like if they can figure this thing out, this is a ridiculous price. So I'll give that out. A little lunch money on them because I don't expect them necessarily to figure it out. But at plus 7,000 is crazy.
So when Anthony Edwards got drafted, you and I both thought future superstar, future first team All NBA, all that stuff. Now that we've had some time to digest, what kind of player is Anthony Edwards going to end up being? Because it's not exactly what I had envisioned.
Oh, that's a good question. Because, I mean, he can get buckets with the best of them. And I think, honestly, if they let him take the reins and let him be the primary ball handler, that improves that team. Like, I think D'Angelo Russell having the ball in his hand that much actually hurts the team.
I don't understand how nobody's learned that over his entire career. It's like everybody wants to throw a bag at D'Lo every time he's available. Everybody wants to trade for D'Angelo Russell. Everybody wants him on their team. And then he shows up, and then everywhere he's been is like, yo, fuck D'Angelo Russell. It's like, why are we falling for this? It's going to happen again. He's outie after this year.
For sure. And it's crazy thing is he's boys with Cat too. Like, and they can't figure this thing out. Like it's kind of crazy. Pelicans, they are a way better team with Zion Williamson. Obviously, they're on a schneid right now. Like they've lost 9 in a row. They're getting smacked right now by the Mavericks. It's bad there in New Orleans, but they got to figure something out. Now, apparently they're looking to trade and get OG Anunoby from the Raptors. He's a hot name on the trade deadline, which is next Thursday. Dallas apparently wants a superstar to pair with Luka, so they could be heavily involved in the trade deadline. So that's something to keep an eye on there at plus 1,400. And then Tyson's Suns plus 800. They want to get busy. He's not a believer in them right now. He's being classic Suns fan, pessimist, but
no, the new ones
are coming back.
The new fans are probably thinking like this is easy money. We're gonna win the finals. It's a long road of pain you have to go down to really be able to tell when somebody doesn't give a shit anymore. Because there was 10 years where nobody on the Suns gave a shit, and now I'm watching it happen in real time.
Yeah, man, that's absolutely. So, all right, so that's our NBA breakdown. That lots of good stuff in here. Now, if you have more questions, you can hit us up on our social media because there's a ton of stuff to get to. And Tyson will tell us where you can find our picks on a night-to-night basis at the end of the podcast as well. But we got to get over. We got to get over into the NCAA championship here because this is as wide open as you can imagine.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. This is what you want. Now, if you have not been following college basketball this season, there's like not an elite team anywhere, which makes for a great storyline. So we can find value on this board. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to kind of take a peek here. The favorites, I think, are definitely vulnerable, and we can go down the board. So let's jump right in here. Let's see. I mean, our boys at Houston, Tyson, they're the prohibitive favorites. They are
as they should be
plus 650.
Like to me, they haven't jumped out necessarily. They haven't separated. And normally by this point in the season, there's at least one team, and you can kind of spot the phonies when this happens. Like when Kentucky rolls off 30 when the SEC is bad and separate, you can kind of tell. But most of the time, there's one or two teams. Gonzaga is almost always undefeated right now. You know, there's almost always somebody where it's like, okay, that's the one. Houston to me has been like the early middle part where they lose to Alabama and blow that giant lead. That's still sticking with people. They're benefited by the fact that nobody alive believes in Purdue to actually be able to pull something out, or else Purdue would be the favorite because they probably should be if we're looking at regular season stuff. I think so too. But as far as like the way the board would look if Purdue had if Purdue was Baylor, like if those two switch spots,
Mm,
I think that we would be seeing a lot more respect paid to Purdue. Houston is physical,
yeah.
and that's the big difference between them and a lot of these other teams on the board. Like if they go out and play UCLA, they're gonna just beat them up. Like
That's a fist fight.
that's like the comparison, right? Like if you run through the board, like uh, I think they beat up Alabama again, but they lost
Oh,
the
yeah.
first one, and
Right.
so that's kind of the deal with Houston is Sasser and them. It's been average compared to where we thought they would be, but I think they're still the most talented.
Yeah, I think talent and teams who play well together, that's what we have to consider here. And you'll hear people talk about college basketball, they're like, well, this team to win it's going to need to have a good draw. It's like, yeah, but you're not going to know that until Selection Sunday, and that's not when you want to buy into the market. So you have to understand how these teams play and how you think they can play in a one and done setting. So because that's the difference. It's like, how do teams normally play who win championships, and what's that DNA look like? Now, last year, Kansas, they got up and down a little bit on you. Like they use that to their advantage. Sometimes, like Virginia, that we've seen, when they're slow, they're extremely efficient. So it's different aspects of the games and if you're extremely good at something, like Tyson just mentioned with Houston, they attack offensive rebounds and are extremely physical. That travels. Like that's going to travel in tournament setting. It's really hard to be upset, be upset by a lower seed or a lesser talented team when you are crashing the glass, when you defend, and when you're physical. So that's what something Houston has going for them at plus 650. They're a little too short for me to recommend to everybody out there if you don't have a ticket. But like Tyson said, I think they should be the favorite. I think they are the best overall team who plays hard, plays together, and knows who they are. So I like Houston a lot, and I would recommend if you want to hold just one ticket, this would be the team to do it.
And if you, like you were saying, as far as defense, and that's a huge thing, is guarding night in and night out when it comes to the tournament. Does anybody do it better than Tennessee?
No, not according to Ken Palm.
That's like, I didn't even know they were one on Kimpom, so shout out there.
Now you.
But like Tennessee gets after you, and
Yeah.
they score the ball good enough to be really really good and really tough to beat. But if you have 2 days to prepare for Tennessee, you're in trouble. And that's kind of the same situation, same feeling with Houston. Like you're in trouble if you have to uh, hopefully change your identity, right? Because some of these teams, like you can't beat them the way that you play basketball. You have to change something, and when you don't have time, those are the teams that can really get after you. And I want to hear your thoughts on Tennessee. But Brad, one team that I really like this season, I like Texas a lot.
Ooh.
I
Now it's
like Marcus
interesting because
Carr.
Chris Beard got fired.
Right. And so this was the biggest bummer of the whole thing is Chris Beard gets fired. And I wanted Texas to stumble a little bit
Right.
after that before finding their footing. So then I could get them somewhere around like where Kansas State's sitting now. I wanted them at like a bigger, juicier number. But they're playing well. And like they look like they hardly missed a beat at all. And they play a ton of guys. Like there's a lot of people that play for Texas. And the only issue I think is they might just be 6'8" football playing athlete away from winning the national championship. And it sounds silly and it's funny, and because those guys don't exist in the NBA. There's one on every single national championship team going back 100 years in the NCAA. Yeah. Armando Bacot, like that dude is a college basketball legend, and all he did was be athletic and big. It's like his skill level was good, and he's better than a lot of the guys I'm talking about. But like that's the upper threshold for who we want. We want somebody to rebound, block shots, and we don't care if you foul out. Just go out there and play hard. And I think if Texas had one of those, we'd be sitting up there with Houston.
Yeah, that's the thing about Texas is they are completely different under the new coach. I'm drawing a blank right now. It'll come to me, I'm sure. But I mean, Marcus Carr, I watched him play at Minnesota, a good player. And then he takes it to Texas. And Marcus Carr hits big-time shots. Like, he's going to be your closer. Teddy Allen's good there. Like, they have good players. Christian Bishop, he transferred from Creighton. I was disappointed when he transferred from there because I like Creighton.
Dylan Disu off the bench. He's a good player, too.
It's an extremely talented Texas team. And I get your point. Like, you wanted them to fall around Kansas State plus 4,000. Now they're hovering around plus 2,500 here. So I think that's a good price for him if you're looking for a long shot and kind of circle back to Tennessee. I love their defense. My one question is offense, and they
Yeah.
play at a snail's pace. And if you're not hitting shots, even if you're a good defensive team, if you're not hitting shots, you can be had in the tournament because somebody's going to get hot and you're going to get tight. And if you can't go down and generate your own offense, that's the one thing that concerns me of Tennessee. Real quick, my eliminators. I'm not backing Purdue. Never will. I just don't believe in them or Matt Painter.
Yeah.
I can't back Kansas again. Bill Self just I was shocked he won last season because he never wins big games, and he did it last year. There's no reason why he's going to do it again. So scratch them off the list. Eliminate this Baylor team. They're starting to figure it out. They're not good enough, I don't think, and they're a little small. Like I think they're going to get hammered on the inside when it comes to tournament play. And the last quick eliminator here. Virginia's just not talented enough. Like this isn't one of those classic Virginia teams where they've had a couple wings that go and play the NBA or Dikite. He ended up in the NBA. I think he's on a two-way roster right now. Kihei Clark's awesome at guard. There's just not enough talent there for me realistically to think that they can run through a tournament, and especially when the mid-majors have been incredible this year as well.
And if we're going eliminators, I mean, I got two always. Arizona is always off my board. I just don't care.
Okay, we'll have to talk about this after you're done going through your eliminators.
I don't care. Like,
okay,
they're good this year. Like Arizona's really good. Shoot the ball well. They play defense well. The tempo is good. All of that. It's just I've been burned, and I'm not going back. that's kind of the way that goes. And one that I'm actually really curious, I guess Gonzaga is the other one I was going to say. Like if the other Gonzaga teams didn't win the national championship, I don't see this one doing it. What's your opinion on St. Mary's? Because they're sitting there way down the board and everyone loves them, but you talk about playing at a snail's plate. Like they have to be perfect.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have awesome guards because they always do. Like it's just great guard culture there, and they got a big guy this year who's skilled. They're actually favored to win the WCC, I think, for the first time.
So cool.
In a long time. And they're like a minus 180 price right now, by the way. So good for them. At plus 5,000, I can't get involved. If it was anything like plus 8,000, maybe you sprinkle something. But like you said, too many things have to go right. And in something where you have to have multiple games in a row go right, that's not something I can get involved in. Like I want teams that I know, hey, if stuff breaks down, I can just go fucking create and be elite. Like that's why I love that Duke team last year, even though they lost. I mean, same with North Carolina team. Oh shit, it's breaking down Paolo, go get us a bucket. Oh, it's breaking down Caleb Love, go get us one. That's why I think. And then again with the Kansas team who won, you had two of them, Obaji, who was awesome, and then Brown, Christian Brown. Both guys end up in the NBA. It's like, oh, this isn't working. Okay, go be elite, and they did. And I just don't see that on the St. Mary's team.
Well, that's college basketball is slowly getting to the NBA where like guards win titles in the NBA. It's a guard-driven league, and for a billion years, it's been about the big guys in college basketball. But if you don't have a secondary ball handler when it comes to March, you don't win. Like that's just simply how this thing is shaken out. You have to have somebody else when your best player doesn't have it to be able to bring the ball up the court. And if you wanted to talk about Arizona, that's kind of part of it. Is like they have the twin tower. Like they got two guys going to go out and get you 20 and 10. It's just and first of all, as an aside, how many times do we have to have some foreign guy come to Arizona, average 20 and 10, and then we talk ourselves into this guy being the one to put him over the hump? I'm sick of it. But
I do like that kid though. The southpaw. What's the name of? Oh geez.
Tulis or Balo?
No, the European kid. Turbello, is that what it is?
Maybe. I don't have the roster right in front of me. I was trying to come up offhand. But they're really big. And they rebound the ball well. They shoot the ball well. It's just you have to have guards. Like I'm more comfortable watching Alabama shoot 100 threes in March trying to win the game than I am with Arizona kind of trying to play a unique style of just a blend that nobody else seems to really run like they do in college basketball. It's going to be really tough, man. And on Alabama, you have 2 days. You play a week and a half or whatever of conference tournament play, and then you go right into March, and they are up and down and up and down and up and down. They are all over the court, and eventually, and they're shooting. Like your legs, by the time they get to the Final Four, who's to say their legs are still underneath them?
Right. Yeah, so it's Tubelis. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Azulis Tubelis, he's a stud, man. I mean, dude's a star. NBA player, I think. I think he's actually gonna be pretty effective. Just the way it's going. He's Lithuanian, can move, can pass. But the thing I think that's different about this Alabama team this year is that Brandon Miller kid is the best freshman in the country. He's unbelievable. He looks like Kevin Durant, dude. Like he's big, long, can hit threes, and is smooth. And this is
he's going to shoot a ton of
them.
He's going to shoot the ball a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, he will get them up. So, all right, let's start giving out some picks here. Now, if you're buying into the market for the first time, we'll help you out here. I have a few that I'm looking at. I think 3 I'll give out today. I can't give out Houston. Tyson, is that where you want to start? Are you going to give out Houston plus 650?
No, I'm going to start giving out Texas at 2,500.
Okay.
Because I think it's not like the most likely thing in the world. I'm not saying that, but I think they're going to win the Big 12 tournament. And then I think all of a sudden we're not sitting at 2,500 anymore. We're talking about a 2 seed, maybe a 1 seed going into the actual tournament itself. And then they're down there somewhere around plus 1,000. To me, I just think this team is good enough to beat anybody in the country. And that's kind of what I'm looking for.
I'm going to give out Alabama plus 1,000. I really like this team a lot. Now, they are a roller coaster. It's hard to ignore that. I think this is the most complete team that Nate Oates has had there. Now, he hasn't had a lot of success.
He's doing a hell of a job, dude.
He has, and he's done a fantastic job there. He hasn't had a lot of success in the tournament. Like, that's been his Achilles heel. But this is one of the most complete teams I've seen. They actually have size, too, like down low. Like, they can throw it in. They have good guard play, and they have a legit one-and-done NBA player. I mean, he's number 3 on my big board. Behind Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson. Like, I love Brandon Miller. I think he's an absolute superstar. So I'm going to give out Alabama plus 1,000. Is there anywhere else you're going to go besides Texas, Tyson?
Well, Tennessee at plus 1,200. Okay. To me, it's like the same thing people said for a long time about Syracuse. Like, you can't figure out the zone, and Tennessee plays different, but it's like you have to go in and play their style of basketball to beat them because they just refuse to play anybody else's. And when they have tried, that's resulted in a couple of their 4 losses here. But it's going to be a dogfight in the SEC as far as who's coming out with that thing. And I think Bama's a really good pick. One of the things about Bama this year, too, that's different is like they're not afraid of anybody anymore, it seems like. Or for a minute there, like when they were first on the come up, it was like, I don't know if these guys really want to play Kentucky that bad. And then in the tournament, it's like, I don't know if these guys really, this team believes that they're the best team in college basketball. And I think that's important. I also think Tennessee thinks that. And I think Tennessee can get a little freakier with their athletes.
Yeah, we know Rick Barnes is really good in these situations. Now Tennessee hasn't had a ton of success per se in the tournament. Like, they've come up a little bit short, but it's got to happen. It's got to turn at some point. I like Rick Barnes as a coach. Second one I'm going to give out here, TCU plus 3,000. Mike Miles is a stud. Now, he just got banged up, so I'm interested to see how they perform without him. I actually think that might help him, to be completely honest. Other guys step up. Other guys have to fill big roles. Eddie Lampkin's a beast on the inside. They almost beat Arizona last year. This TCU team is better, I think, than the team last year, who legitimately could have made a deep run. This team, I think, just has everything that you're looking for in a tournament team who can like make a late run. Size, athleticism, and guys who can make shots. I'm going to give that out plus 3,000 here. TCU.
And I guess the other ones that I like, Brad, are all on that 3,500 line. It's Marquette, Connecticut, Creighton, and Xavier. And I like them for different reasons, but I like them because these are teams that can just get hot. And like when Marquette's offense is rolling, it's the best offense. Like, it's crazy when they get moving. UConn was on fire to start the year. Fell back to earth, but that team lives in there, right? I mean, this is one thing I always say with college basketball. I think the most important times to watch if you want to be educated is you want to watch the beginning of the season and you want to watch about the last 3 weeks before the tournament. And then you can really figure out who these teams are. And UConn has passed one of those with flying colors. Creighton, we know the deal. You got to stop us. That's the way Creighton plays basketball. And Xavier wants to have a rock fight, man. And those are all teams that I think can get hot and beat anybody. Like one of those four teams is going to beat Purdue in the Sweet 16. That's just the way this thing's going to shake out.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it because I love Creighton plus 3,500. Now, this team, I think earlier they were at plus 7,000 when they were stumbling. Some, we that shortened really quick. But like you said, their offense is legit. I mean, Baylor, Schuerhorn, he's a stud coming over from San Diego State. Kalkbrenner, their center, that guy's a beast, man. He is what you want in the NCAA tournament because you play these little mid-majors, he's going to dunk all over them, and you got the other guards around them who can go. Trey Anderson being one of them. So I like this team. My concern is their defense, and that's the concern with all McDermott teams. They just have a hard time defending. I think that's the one thing that you can get hung up on here. So you like that 3,500 line? Anything else, Tyson? You like any of these long shots by chance?
Not really. I'll end up talking myself into somebody. And another aside on Creighton is they've played a lot of really good teams so far this year, and they've passed most of the tests. And most of these Creighton teams kind of roll in, and we're like, I don't know what to expect. This one they've beaten good people. Indiana has one of the best players in the country. Kentucky has one of the best players in the country. Kansas State, we've seen what they do. Iowa State should be on everybody's no-no list for what they did to us in the mid-2010s. We already went over St. Mary's. North Carolina stinks. Illinois is not going to win it. Michigan State, if you really believe this is one of the ISO Final Four run teams,
but
I think so too. What do you think on Duke at plus 6,000? I'm not interested.
This team stinks, dude. Like this is a bad Duke team. Like I was talking with somebody who went to Duke, and I'm just like, dude, these are like they're rated so high coming out of school. This freshman class, like a ton of 5 stars. They weren't ready for college basketball, man. Like they just were not ready.
I was a little bit impressed with their performance against Wake Forest, just because Wake Forest wants to rebound, get you out of the gym, and Duke came out and said, like, that's not happening today, and was able to kind of hold them off. But there was multiple moments in that game where it was just like, is Duke about to blow this?
I know, or we're about to blow them out, and then they about to blow the game.
Yeah,
like it was.
And then they let them back in. And to me, if you can't handle Wake Forest on your home floor, you don't necessarily deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as some of these guys at the top.
Yeah, and I mean, Kyle Filipowski's the best freshman on that team. He's an absolute stud. Like he's a beast, double-double.
He gets up, dude.
He does. I mean, he's a really good player. But other than that, Derek Lively, the number 1 recruit, like he's one of those guys who just dominates by dunks in high school. And that you can't necessily do that.
He has no moves, man.
No,
when you're watching him play. Yeah. But I mean, he's one dribble, drop step, dunk, and he can do that with the best of them. But yeah, Duke is lacking some basket creation in a way that is a little bit unreal for Duke teams.
Yeah, it is. Arkansas loved them coming into the year, but Trayvon Brazil, he blew his knee out. I think that's the end of Arkansas. Like they look like a completely different team without him, because with them, that's the most athletic team in the country. I believe it. You already said Illinois. They can't tell if they like each other or not.
Rutgers can guard.
Win. Yeah, Rutgers they can't win away from home though. That's the problem.
No.
Like in the rack, when they tighten the rim so that a rock can bounce off of that, like it's hard to win there. But you get out of the gym with a little bit more realistic rims, let's just say, and they lose a lot more often. It's funny how that works. And the Miami, like they can score with anybody. They can't defend you and me. Like that's the problem. And then kind of rounding out our big board here, Michigan State stinks, like you said, and I said. San Diego State. I love Brian Dutcher, the head coach. I really want them to go on a deep run. This is not the San Diego State team to do it. Now, Matt Bradley's really good in the Mountain West Conference, but the problem is when you leave the Mountain West, like these guys do, and they play in tournament play, you play a different style of basketball. And they haven't been able to adjust to it, which is super unfortunate. And the Memphis
are they better than Boise State if you had to pick one from the conference?
Oh, geez, that's tough. I think probably just because they're a little bit longer, and so I think that translates a little bit better. Boise State, though, they have the better guard, and Boise State doesn't shoot it very well, though. Like, they're so inconsistent shooting the ball.
But like the fact that you have to think about it and then you have to
Nice.
scroll way down the board to plus 15,000 to find Boise State, I think lets you know everything that you need to.
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, and both these teams, so they're tied in the Mountain West right now, and then Nevada's about one game back in conference. Utah State's a game back, so it's tight in the Mountain West. But that's the problem; these guys all play like a very similar style,
Yep.
and then it's just they get out of it, and it's like, oh, this is different. But no, it's actually it's interesting though. I like this Boise State team, but they don't have the size that they normally do. That's kind of holding me up. But I do like their guard Marcus Shaver. That's the guy I was trying to think of.
There's like a small world, right, where Missouri somehow like finds their way into this thing. Like in the, somehow, like if they get hot, like this offense is really fun in Missouri, and I don't know if they're actually gonna even make the tournament as the way that this thing's shaking out. But
I was gonna say
like
we'll see.
if they get in, like when you think about just like random long shots, like I was thinking about who could be a first four team this year, like the last one's picked to make it in. I mean, when you do that, I'm looking at offenses and like Missouri's offense is really good. Miami's offense is okay. I don't know. I mean, it sucks. Like it's fun that it's wide open.
Yeah.
But it makes it tough.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It makes it tough. It makes it fun. That's why we want to get into the basketball futures market with everybody here as we go towards the hardwood, man. Like it's like the gridiron. It's almost done, Tyson. We're gonna have a ton coming up next week, but it's crazy. Football season's almost over.
Yeah, and check out. We're gonna have some episodes next week. We'll have a kind of a breakdown of the game as well as going over some of the more fun props that come along with the Super Bowl. We're going to be talking coin flips, national anthems, all that good stuff, and that should come out on Wednesday. And then we'll break down the actual game. So after that, I mean, it's straight ball.
Oh yeah, it's I can't wait for it, man. I can't wait for the big game. Can't wait for our Eagles to do it. I'm starting to get a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie, it's starting to hit me right now.
I'm getting more nervous, like the less nervous I feel, which is normally what happens before they lose.
Tell them where they can find our picks in the meantime, Tyson.
Yeah, they'll be in the Chalkboard app. You can find it on the App Store. You can find it on Google Play or whatever you use. It's just basically like Discord. Brad and I are in there throwing our picks around on everything from the NFL, NBA, NCAA, NHL, MMA. Brad's a big table tennis guy lately. There's been a lot of those in there. And golf's ramping up. And that's going to be really fun. We're going to get some we're going to try out some of our more asinine strategies when it comes to fun parlays with golf this year. That's going to be fun. But it's in the Chalkboard app. Our group name is the Round Table. And we got a little community built up, and we're just trying to throw value out there and basically see what sticks. And if you were in there or you've been listening to the show, you don't have to sweat in the NFL because we've had futures tickets on everybody. We've made money through the work that we did early in the year. Now we're just kind of sitting back, reaping the benefits of that. And we're trying to do the same thing with the NBA. And hopefully in a month and a half, we can sit here and say, told you Texas was a good bet.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great. That would be great. So definitely check us out on the Chalkboard. In the meantime, though, we appreciate you watching as always as we get closer to basketball season and right in the thick of things, in all honesty. So if you're starting to get into basketball as well, make sure to check out all of our content. You can subscribe to the show to make sure you don't miss anything. But in the meantime, stay connected with us. Our Twitter is at @TRT_pod. Also, if you want to check us out on Instagram and TikTok, it's the same handle @_ the Roundtable Pod _ Like Tyson said, we will be back next week talking football, getting ready for the big game. We'll speak to you all then, guys. Peace.